Next up is a woman that can rob dungarees like no one's business. She's here to tell you some truths. Please put your hands together for Louise Leigh!
I'll leave it in, do we hear? Right. Hello, hi. The following is a true story. I turned 16 in the summer of 1988, the one they called the second summer of love. But this isn't a story about raving, about warehouse parties, or about getting off my head on ecstasy, because I was raised in the deeply conventional world of upper middle class Scotland. And that world was a little more Downton Abbey than Acid House. In that context, as the only girl in my family for miles around, I was aware that while I definitely should get a good education and I definitely could have a glittering career, my purpose was to get married. And my parents wanted me to marry well. And the best way to secure a good marriage was, of course, to send me to an all-girls boarding school. And then in the holidays, to make sure I went to parties, sometimes even balls, where I would meet respectable young gentlemen. Now, I don't think they expected me to meet my happily ever after while I was still at school. But they definitely thought that I should have a few practice princes. And that is how, at 17, I ended up at the 21st birthday of my parents' friend's son, a young man who attended the Royal Military Academy at Sandhurst, the college where the sons of good families learn to be army officers. This party, it was felt, would surely be a rich seam of practice princes for me to mine. At the time, I was going through a stage that would probably now almost definitely be described as bordering on non-binary. I had the undercut, the short back and sides, the no visible skirts, and the Doc Martens. So asked to perform femininity, a ball gown no less, I may have gone over the top. I looked like a Christmas tree. Literally, strapless dress with tiers of dark green taffeta, and on the front, boop, 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 3 bunches of plastic fruit. Big fruity earrings, red suede court shoes, and a man's Highland jacket with silver buttons here, which were fashionable at the time because it would look like you'd stolen one from a boy you'd snogged. But I had borrowed mine from my brother, who I definitely haven't snogged. So we go to the party, and the only people that I know at the party are the host and my parents. There's a buffet meal, and there's a table plan, a seating plan, and I am placed next to a rather dishy officer trainee in full practice prince regalia. You know, there's trousers with the stripe down the side, and the short jacket with the twiddly bits on the shoulders, and he might even have had a sword. My mother, from across the room, has clocked him, and she's all... The practice prince has a generous hand with the wine, and by the end of the dessert course, nature has taken its course. Hands are touching thighs, and snogging is very much in the offing. A private place is sought. The room where the buffet is set up with semi-excavated pavlovas still in situ is chosen. It's a bit brightly lit, but who needs romantic lighting when you have a prince to snog the living daylights out of? Look, here's the thing. It's half term. In 2 days, I go back to the nunnery. And I have always been a can-do sort of girl. So when he suggests that I do what you're doing with your hand, with your mouth. I think, well, there's a first time for everything. And I say, okay, just don't come in my mouth. Just like Cinderella. And so, amid the desserts, I feast on an altogether different kind of confection. And the moment comes. He emits the standard warning. I sit back and I watch an ejaculation, the likes of which I have never seen since. All over my shoulder. Over my shoulder. Onto my brand new shoes. And finally, into my eye. My eye. It is in the top 3 most painful things that have ever happened to me, and the other 2 are childbirth and snapping a hamstring. My eye is bright red and throbbing. I can feel them swimming. I am as covered in cream as the pavlova. And my parents are upstairs. In desperation, I suggest that maybe we could fake a food fight. You know, I could save some face. You know, maybe we both had some mess on our jackets. The practice prince buttons up his flies and says, "Not on my dress uniform, no way. I'll see you in the bar." I tuck my jacket under my arm, hold a napkin to my inflamed eye, and skulk off to the ladies. Once I'm more or less cleaned up, I think I'd like to go home. So I go to the bar to look for my parents. And there he is, the practice prince, standing in a circle with his friends. And as I walk into the room, I hear him say, "Came in alive!" And the circle opens out like the petals of a flower as these young gentlemen from good families throw their heads back and laugh. And I, in my Christmas tree dress, in a move that feels as spunky as my shoes, pick up a pint of beer and pour it on his head and his dress uniform. Which is when my mother walks into the room and says words I have never forgotten. She says, "Louise, we do not throw pints of beer over nice young men from the Irish Guards." And I reply, "Mother, he was not a gentleman." And that is just one of the reasons I left the relatively closed and deeply conventional world of upper middle class Scotland, and eventually married a gentle man who spent the summer of 1988 raving. But that is another story. So that story is called The Practice Prince, or Someday My Prince Will.